各位来宾大家好啊，非常荣幸。
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great honor to join all of you in today's conference. My topic today is analysis of deliverable resources potential after the change of coking coal futures contracts. First, a brief self-introduction. My corporation has been working in the deliverable resources of coking coal for many years. And we're dealing with coking coal futures. And now we are affiliated to Zhejiang Wuchan. We are not the largest trader. However, over the years, we've been actively participating in the future contracts in the market. We work with customers of Shanxi, Zhejiang, and Mongolia contractors. And this pricing mechanism has been shifting over the years. Now let's talk about some of the. First of all, it's an interpretation of modified coking coal delivery standard, and second would be the delivery potential analysis of different coal types. I will give the conclusions first. First of all, the coking coal delivery benchmark locations have been changed from sales area to production areas. Mainly focusing on Shanxi, which is the major producer for coking coal. So the production area now have gained a portion of the future pricing power. And this kind of power has actually been transferred from the southern ports to the production bases in the northern part of China, which shows an adjustment of domestic industrial policies. In this process, a lot of factors has given rise to this shift, and also it is kind of explain the price fluctuations of coking coals. And as the producer of coking coal, Shanxi actually has the advantage of being the haven to fend off risks of price fluctuations. Second, due to custom restrictions during the pandemic, the delivery standards are now more accommodating to medium and high sulfur coals. So as the producer of coking coal, if it can also be the pricing center, it will have serve a more important strategic role in the landscape. And the second factor is the delivery standard. It's now more accommodating to medium and high sulfur loans. As the producer compared to ports, it has its own advantages. So in the Shanxi coal contains about 1.3 to 1.5% of sulfur, and the coking coal in Shanxi as the mainstream coal variety in China will increase in terms of its proportion of domestically produced coal. 3. The cost of creating warehouse warrant has been significantly reduced, and the penalties for ash and sulfur content and discounts for delivery location are no longer in use. In the past, if the ash and sulfur content exceeds the standard, there will be penalties. The penalties will constitute cost for the traders, and currently it's no longer in use, and this cost has been substantially reduced. This is also a favorable condition for coal in Shanxi. Here is an adjustment to the specifications. And in terms of ash, we can see that the standard has shifted from 10 to 10.5%. That's ash from 10 to 10.5%. In the past, it was no more than 10.5%, and for standard products, it's now 11%. So for every 0.1% increase, there's a penalty of 4 to 30. And within 10, when the ashes for every 0.1 decrease, there's a premium of 2 to 0. So within 10%, when ash is lower than 9%, there's a premium of 30 yuan. So the price, the policy has actually loosened up. In the past, the penalty for the increase in terms of the ash content is stricter than that of today. Now let's move on to sulfur. It has moved up from 0.7% to 1.3%. And its upper limit has remained at 1.6%. So for every 0.01% increase, there's a discount of 5, which is also accumulated with the previous tiers. And if it exceeds 160, there will be an additional 150. It's a very big discount. It's a very big penalty. And for those that for the increase, for every 0.01% of increase, there's a discount of 2.5, which is cumulated with the previous tier. That is within a range of 1% to 1.3%. I think there's something going wrong with the slides. Sorry about that. But my point is that when a standard change from 0.7 to 1%, now it has changed to 0.7% to 1.3%. So it is fair to say that the penalties for the exceeding of ash and the sulfur has been reduced. Now let's look at some of the other factors concerning the volatility of the coal. It has shifted from 26 to 28. This is not a very big change for Sxcoal because it's a regular range. But if it's Mongolia coal, there will be a discount. Now let's look at the G value. It basically remained the same, and for Y value, there's not a very big difference.
So in Shanxi, as long as we use G, we don't necessarily have to use the Y value. And then the other indicator is the heat intensity. So traditionally it is 60 to 65, including 60 and 65, but right now it's replaced by a bracket. A month earlier, when the market was very active, it doesn't quite make sense if you follow this heat intensity in 2015. The on the spot price is 1,700 yuan per ton. Then you wouldn't spend 80 extra yuan for this bonus. And now let's take a look at new substitutes, specifications, and premiums and discounts. When it was 1.3 and 1.6, the discount is 5 yuan. So this is quite fitting for the coal in Shanxi, but when the settlement scope has expanded, we can also add some thin coal produced by Shanxi. So this is actually expanding the scope of trading for the coal in Shanxi. The standard deviation is less than 0.13%. This is the same. And now let's take a look at the adjustment from a regional perspective. In the past, we often talk about the Tangshan Port, Qingdao Port, and Zhejiang Port, and Lianyungang Port in Jiangsu Province. But right now, the Shanxi port has become the base standard. So the standard price for settlement was set as 170 yuan. If the transport cost is larger than 200 yuan per ton, then it's very much recommended to use the standard of Shanxi province. But right now, the price has been adjusted to 170, which means that if you are located very close to the port, then you can use this 170 yuan per ton standard. So this is simply the settlement region. It has re-established Shanxi as the base place for price settlement. So a lot of this adjustment, they are in favor of Shanxi province, which means that the enterprises in Shanxi province can harvest a higher yield, because most of the times the transport cost is larger than 200 yuan per ton, and this will become the new normal going forward. After streamlining the settlement standards, and now let's take a look at the Mongolian coking coal. And let's take a look at the different compositions, and then come to the conclusion of which type of coal is more profitable. Take a look at the Mongolian coal, for example. Between prior to the 2013 and 2014, Mongolian coal was used as the standard to calculate the standard. The volatility is 27 to 28. The G level is 8. The CSR is above 60. In Mongolia, they don't have the settlement pool. My personal experience is that when I was working in Tianjin port, the cost was very low, but then the business was suspended in Tianjin port, and then the coal was shipped to Tangshan port. And this is the general practice of the trade, and we oftentimes choose the place with the lowest transaction cost. So that was before the adjustment of the settlement standard. But after 2034, you can see that there are a lot of adjustment. If you still use the Mongolian standard of price, you would have a lot of deductions. You can see that sulfur gives you an additional 150 yuan. You can see the volatility is very high and it's larger than 26. So that is why you got 50 yuan deducted, and water content is 10. That gives you another deduction of 40 yuan. So at the end of the calculation, you have 270 yuan of premiums. Now let's take a look at Mongolian number 3. AD is 11. That gives you a deduction of 30 yuan. Sulfur is 0.7. That gives you a bonus of 150 yuan. And water content is 8. Heat intensity is 65. Mongolian number 3 is not as stable as Mongolian number 5. Different batches of coal, some of the coal can reach the heat intensity of 65. But sometimes the situation is not that ideal. If you can have a heat intensity of 65, then you can claim a bonus of 80 yuan. But you can see at the end of the calculation, you can get at least 290 yuan or 370 yuan as the bonus or as the premium. So this is just a very rough comparison. At the ports, based on recent market prices, the price of Mongolian number 3 is around 160 to 180 yuan per ton, lower than Mongolian number 5, making it the better option. So the Mongolian coal number 3 would have a lot more advantages when it is traded down a spot, and if you can blend it with some ashes in Mongolia, then that will give you more added value. Coal resources in Mongolia are abundant, but less exploited. There are mainly a couple of ports, for example, Takishkan, Sxcoal, and Mandula, and Aranhot. In recent years, thanks to efforts from both sides, the limitations on customs clearance for Mongolia has been going down. So that means in the future, the minimum standard of 1,000 vehicles would be increased. I visited a couple of coking coal factories in Shanxi a couple of days ago, and they say that they will combine the washed coal of Mongolia with the coking coal of Shanxi. So when that is blended, they will ship the coal to the port, and this will avoid the repeated transportation of Mongolian coal. So currently the most economic approach is like this because it can reduce the cost to its minimum. Now let's move on to Australian and the Canadian coking coal. Let's select 4 of the most representative coal types. For the high quality coking coal represented by Australia, they have low ash, low sulfur, high volatility. In 2016, we purchased coal from Australia at the price of $91 per ton. We just need to transport the coal to the port, and for every single ton of coal, we can harvest a profit of 210 yuan. And that was the good old days, because right now the price has become more transparent. This is actually a good thing. It means that the pricing mechanism of the market has become more mature. Now let's take a look at them one by one. Peak Downs, Gangyala, Riverside, and Tax Standard. You can see that the sulfur level is very low, and that gives you a bonus of 150 yuan. The volatility is between 21 and 23. The heat intensity is oftentimes above 70, so that gives you an additional 80 yuan. And the location gives you a bonus of 170 yuan. So at the end of the day, you can get the premium of 360 yuan, or sometimes 400 yuan. So that is a very good premium. According to the old delivery standard, the representative imported coal grades above have a discount of 15 yuan per ton to a premium of 20 yuan per ton. Sometimes you can get the deduction of 10 yuan because of the high content of ash. The water content is very reasonable, and that gives you some bonus. At present, prices of the above coals are still more than 200 yuan per ton, which is higher than that of domestic coal with the same quality, which is not cost effective. This Monday, the price has gone down for 3 yuan, but this mismatch of price hasn't been overturned. So it is necessary to wait for the prices to further decline before reaching the delivery window. You may ask why we didn't talk about Russia. Well, the Russian coal features low ash and sulfur contents and high cost effectiveness. This year and last year, everybody is very keen about purchasing coal from Russia. But the deadly drawback is that its heat intensity is very low. The CSR is around 30 to 40, so it's not a good option for futures. And now let's take a look at the coal in Shanxi, which is the key focus of my presentation today. Traditionally, the old standard features a ash content of 10.5, and that gives you a deduction of 20 yuan. For sulfur content is 1.3, and that deducts the price by 120. Volatility is 26, which is impeccable. Water level, CSR, impeccable. The location gives you a deduction of 200 yuan. So at the end of the calculation, the premium is minus 340 yuan. So this is a very heavy penalty. But according to the new standard, you can see that it's perfectly aligning with the coal quality in Shanxi. So if you settle the contract with the new standard in Shanxi, so you can get an extra of 340 yuan because you no longer have to pay the deduction of 340 yuan. So the three key adjustments are ash content and volatility, reflectance, and we increase the penalty on high volatility, and low sulfur premium has been increased. In 1907, according to GM 1907, well, I have gone through all those different standards. In GM 1907, we were very much surprised because in Shanxi we were working regularly with some coal washing plants. That was a very comfortable days because sulfur content has been reduced from 1.4 to 0.7. CSR has increased from 50 to 60. And after this new revision, the index has been brought closer to the Australian standard and also Mongolian coal number 5 standard. So which means that according to the then spot price level in China, Shanxi's simple mixed coking coal value was lowered by about 240 yuan per ton. Which means if the price is decided by the seller, it wouldn't do any good to the coal enterprises in Shanxi. But the modification in April 2022 was the further revision based on the previous one. And after this modification, the estimated delivery value of the same quality Shanxi coal was about 340 yuan per ton, so which is truly in our favor. Delivery conditions have become more convenient. We are able to afford the penalty of 20 yuan per ton, and there is higher indirect premiums. The direct result is that Sxcoal enterprises have benefited more from hedging. So, which means that the enterprises in Shanxi can harvest a much higher profit. So this modification is more in line with Sxcoal, especially in terms of mid-sulfur. But it weakens the advantage of low sulfur and low ash coals, which are rare in China but more competitive globally. Therefore, the standard product for pricing has been adjusted from imported coal to domestic mainstream coking coal, and the imported coal serves as a supplementary substitute delivery.
So from the current prices of various coking coal and supply increments, Mongolian coal is relatively competitive at this stage, without a doubt. This is mainly because of the widened viginite reflectance range, and it also includes Shanxi's lean coal into the processable scope. So it has significantly increased the scope of domestic deliverable sources. It can be seen that the basic idea of the benchmark adjustment is to use Shanxi coal as reference and taking into account some Mongolian coal, number 3 and number 5, and seaborne coals. So compared to other imported coals, Mongolian coal number 3 is very cost-effective, and Mongolian coal as well as Australian coals are all up to the deliverable standard. So it also reflects the development of patterns of the DCE, focusing on China's domestic circulation and the working philosophy of ensuring supply, stabilizing prices, and promoting industry development. Last, let me share with you some of the overall evaluation and the impact on industry. So this adjustment take into consideration the need of domestic factories to improve the quality of feedstock materials. After this adjustment, the strength is improved to enhance the applicability when factories are using them. The combination of spot and futures delivery is closely integrated to improve the quality of delivery and reduce disputes. And second, this is in line with the long-term trend of China's steel mills and coal plants switching from small to large ovens, and the gradual increase in the strength requirement of the coal entering the oven, and leading to the elimination of low-strength intermediate coal types from candidate delivery coals. Third, against the backdrop of unstable international situation leading to significant fluctuations in energy and coal, as well as domestic dual carbon control strategies for energy consumption, a growing scarcity of high-quality coking coal, expanding a range of deliverable products can help maintain stable market operation. This is about the impacts of futures spot participation. I think for the future spots, the biggest risk is force majeure, and because this kind of force majeure can it can expand the range of coal varieties, including delivery, and reduce the risk of force majeure. And with an estimated total increase of about 16 to 20 million tons in various goods sources. Second, this monthly cancellation of warehouse warrant reduces the risk for buyers participating in delivery, which this kind of quality check will ensure the buyers of its quality, which is conducive to increase the activity of coking coal futures trading. This kind of monthly constellation can ensure this long-term participations on the buyer side, which will also reduce the speculative forces and increase the activity. And the pricing would be more objective due to this mechanism. So this is my interpretation of the change of the indicators. So my company has been working in this business for a very long time, and Zhejiang Wuchan is the biggest SOE in Zhejiang province. So we work the Sxcoal and the coal in other places in other countries. So we're hopefully we can have further communications in information and trade. Thank you.